So quick little disclaimer before we jump into this very hilarious episode of Cautious Hero. It is windy as hell at my place and it's going to be all day. So if there is weird noises, there's a very strong chance you won't hear it at all, but if you do, nothing I can do about it, just Mother Nature being a bitch right now. That said, this episode of Cautious Hero was amazing. Now, I knew something was going on with this goddess, but I was not expecting the whole nymphomaniac angle and just the thirstiness that would be coming off of this woman, and of course, it wouldn't hurt Hsieh, but still, putting that against him, the emotionless, the stone cold, insult everyone, how would he deal with a nymphomaniac? Cautious Hero just delivered funniest things that I've seen in this series in quite some time. It got a lot of chuckles out loud from me. I love this episode. The first half is 10 out of 10 top tier comedy, at least for someone as immature as myself. I just love the build up to that, you know, you're just simple, you're chilling, you're like, okay, look at our characters, because we knew that kind of get the cheat codes that are going to unlock their abilities so they wouldn't have to wait around, be useless. You're seeing, oh, okay, you know, we got the dragon arm and that's all cool. You know, it's a little funny because he only has one arm and then they kind of make fun of that. And then you start having the simplistic stuff like, oh, she can slow down or speed up. It's like, that's actually pretty handy. I mean, you can have more strength and then you can also change the speed of opponents or even the person you're trying to aid. So you got the supporting magic and then you have some more combat-oriented stuff. Is Hsieh going to need that? Absolutely not. He's going to be able to handle it. He's going to be able to carry everyone on his back. But still, you're building it up. It's cute. It's sweet. And then you start realizing that, oh, okay, so if there's any sort of, like, contact that's sexual or romantic towards a goddess and the hero, it's done. It's over with. And of course, I immediately thought, oh man, this is going to be real bad for our main goddess. And then she starts making jokes that if anyone's going to break the rules, it's going to be her. And I'm like, of course she would say that. And that entire forest sequence, it feels like it's trying to be pulled from an ecchi anime, but then being shut down by a guy who is having none of it. And it was actually kind of glorious, like how she was stringing herself up in the tree and just those robes, I'm surprised they were covering anything. And then you get like the holy censorship. It was comedy gold in my honest opinion. I love the idea of having a character like Hsieh who shuts down every single trope. His entire point of view is, I will be perfectly prepared, and if I'm perfectly prepared, I will fight the monster at hand. He's not about like getting romantic and lovey-dovey or, you know, becoming besties in the typical sense, right? He's just going to do whatever makes the most logical sense, and there is no logical reason for him to get sexual with a thirsty goddess. Like, there's nothing there that would aid his quest. Like, he's not being kind of held down by just wanting to get down and dirty or anything like that. He's not focused on the sexual attraction and things like that, so it just has no effect on him. And to just see how he continued to counter that, like how he would just keep shooting her, or you were just seeing the reactions from the characters, like having the eyes covered, or one of my favorite lines in this entire series is how she said she would have a bite of a Shota, and then it immediately is like, you can't say Shota in the forest. It's like, it's a holy forest, you can't say that. It's so ridiculous, and I love that type of stuff. Like, this is the type of stuff that I could show a lot of people and they'd roll their eyes at me being like, you are just a child, and I'd be like, so be it, but that shit cracks me up and I love it. It is just like the reactions and how she feels like a spider, a wolf, thirsting for her next meal, and she's just like, I just didn't even know. I didn't even know what to say. I didn't even know what to feel. I was just like, this is perfect. I didn't know I wanted to see something like this so much, because yes, we've had like thirstiness from our main goddess, but nothing to this extent. Wanting to kiss, wanting to get a little more intimate, sure, but not to the point that she would literally strip down naked, tie up her breasts, her private areas, and string herself up to a tree and said, hey, burn these robes and let's get down and dirty. No, we never got to that extreme, so I didn't realize how much I wanted to see this, because he shuts it down. Like, Hsieh is literally the trope destroyer. Like, that should be his real title, not the Cautious Hero, the trope destroyer. He just shuts down everything, and he just disregards everyone's feelings besides himself for the logical outcome, and it's fantastic. This sequence was just pure comedy gold. The visuals really got into just the difference of just shocked, confused, a little aroused, and then just deadpan to the monstrous thing at hand. And that was actually quite glorious. I loved that. It was just so perfect, and I didn't think they could top a yandere goddess wanting to just, you know, spinning around in a tornado fashion with knives trying to kill Hsieh, to then introducing something that's even more deadly and even more hilarious when you put it up against our characters, one of which who just doesn't even give a shit at what he's seeing. It's kind of amazing. And I know there's like a lot of like theories and speculations on where Hsieh came from, why he's so powerful. And one of the big theories is that basically he's been summoned before, which is the most logical and most likely where it will go, because there's definitely some hints and foreshadowing between certain goddesses acting as if she already knew Hsieh or she already cares for Hsieh, despite should be one of her first interactions with him. So yeah, he probably has been summoned before, but until they explore that story angle, I'm not going to sit here for 10 minutes pondering what happened in his past, because, well, I mean, we got content at hand. Let's wait and see where it's actually going to go in the future. Has he been summoned before? Probably. Only time will tell, and I doubt we'll see that in this season, probably in like a season 2 if it does get one, which, with the amount of success it's had, I would be very shocked if it didn't get another season at the very least. But when we got into the second half, like, we were transitioning from just absurd comedy, like pure absurd comedy, to more of what we got with last week, which was the action with the flies, and of course there was still comedy, but it just couldn't mirror the absolute absurdity, the hilarious aura that at least I got from that first half. But he was still damn funny and entertaining, and I love the idea that Hsieh can just perfectly predict, like, in any other serious anime hand, like, I would say this is a fault. Like, he's always perfectly prepared. Oh, what's new? But in a comedy like this, where he just perfectly predicts everything, like, oh, yeah, I imagine that they'd be loud, or yep, I imagine he'd recognize us. Okay, yep, I knew all this. It's just so ridiculous because you naturally think, oh man, they're screwed, someone's gonna die, and then say it's like, nah, I realize that. It's like the simplistic beauty to that I really do appreciate. And I can understand if some people don't like that, but for me, it just hits my funny bone. And just the idea that now that he's kind of mastered this bow, and obviously he's going to master it more than any goddess because it's Hsieh, right? He's the overly overpowered, cautiously hero. Of course he's going to do something even more crazy than what we've seen a goddess do. And I just love that build-up because I wasn't sure exactly how he was going to deal with it. I knew the bow was going to be incorporated, but the whole idea that I immediately assumed that there was going to be a height that he couldn't shoot from. Yes, he could fly, but if he flew up, then he would be recognized. Like, I wasn't sure actually the direction they were going to go. Like, I knew he was going to fire some arrows, and I knew it was probably going to hit, but I was like, what's going to be the twist? What's going to be the punchline? Because the big thing I've really appreciated with Cautious Hero, especially in its action, is there's always been some form of twist that's actually pretty difficult to predict. It's nothing that's like extraordinary, but it is enough to say, oh, I didn't see that coming. It's both hilarious and a little badass. And just the build up and how Hsieh said, just ask him how the weather's been or how's your day been. Just like the basic bitch casual talk that no one cares about, it's enough to throw someone off. And just that natural build up about like, oh, you're gonna become fireworks, oh, looking like it's all bad, and then you see the holy arrows and you're like, okay, we expected that, but what's gonna happen? And then they're all dodged, and I was like, okay, maybe they're gonna come back towards him. I actually wasn't expecting them to transform into birds and how he predicted that he would be able to dodge them, and then those birds would just come in and rip his stomach apart. I was like, that's kind of badass. I really like that about Hsieh. Like, of course he's the trope destroyer. He shuts down personalities and gimmicks and things like that. It's hilarious, we love it, or at least I know I do, and if you've gotten 2/3 of the way through the first core, I imagine you do as well to some degree. However, his action is actually pretty interesting as well, just because it is hard to predict the final moment. The build up, the kind of like the little step-by-steps, yeah, you can usually figure out what Hsieh is going to do in any given situation unless he has a new weapon that we didn't know about up to this point. But watching like his arrows turn into birds, I doubt many predicted that. It's nothing like crazy, but it is enough to say, oh, that's actually kind of cool. Even if you were predicting he was going to get hit in the back by his arrows, the idea that they turned into birds was kind of amazing, and I love little situations like that. And the aftermath, I thought was like the perfect cherry on top, because they had new abilities, right? We have Mash and Lulu, like, what are they gonna do? They got new abilities, they weren't really incorporated into this fight, and Hsieh is like, hey, I'm not forgetting you guys. And of course he has to be a dick about it. Like, he doesn't realize he's being a dick, or if he does, he just doesn't care. But the idea, though, of speeding up a dragon hand so he can just gather up all the bodies so he can burn them like he did in the early episodes, where he just makes sure there's no carcasses so they can't come back from the dead. That is the Cautious Hero, and was there any other way to wrap up an episode? I don't think so. And then they even, like, give us more with the whole dog angle and how she's, like, so tsundere not wanting to really accept help, and then is just this blatant just disregard for not giving a shit about her feelings, even if she was trying to be that tropey hero, just insulting her like a dog, berating her, and just all the characters' reactions. Like, that's what I love about this series, is they continuously either reintroduce jokes and situations from prior episodes. The whole idea of calling her a dog, we've seen that before. However, they found a new way to incorporate it in this episode, both with its visual presentation and just the characters continuing to find new faces to just get a chuckle at me. I love the art design of this series. It's so ridiculous that in a lot of ways, I want to say it's my favorite art design of the season just because of the numerous face reactions and body structures that they'll just, what are we looking at sometimes? But it's like, if it had any less detail to its comedic direction, would this series be nearly as funny? Absolutely not. A lot of people like to rip into series like this, or even Konosuba's first season, where it has a lot of like loose line work. You can see disproportionate body models, or just like a scene here and then you look at a scene here, they're not really all that similar. But it's done for a reason. Like, you can argue, yes, it is production issues at times, but the sloppiness, as some people like to call it, where I actually say it's comedic relief, in my opinion, is that it allows for these transitions from just, you know, the more basic mundane to just absolute absurdity, and it transitions so fluidly because we're used to not so proportionate character models, and it actually aids in a lot of ways. If this was a serious isekai, yeah, you could call it an issue, but for being as ridiculous as this is, it continuously finds new ways to make me laugh, and I doubt I would be still finding this as funny as I am 8 weeks in if they didn't have such ridiculous face models and things like that we've seen over the weeks. This was just a very, very funny episode of Cautious Hero. I'm sure if you're not as immature as myself, maybe you didn't like the thirsty goddess angle, but hey, I'm a child sometimes, and I embrace it. This shit was funny, and it was a little badass all in the process, but what did everyone think of? One of my favorite episodes of this season, I have to say, for Cautious Hero. Damn good episode, definitely like top 3 at this moment. Whatever you're feeling though, do let me know. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy, and also hit that subscribe button if you happen to be new. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.